Hi everyone, this is Kelly from Truth and Story, and today is the final day of Lenormarch. I'm going to go ahead and lay these cards back out. Yes, I know, I'm back to my beautiful thing, but I'm in the midst of doing well, I kind of did the walkthrough, but I'm doing a little chit-chat still about the Marseille deck, which I got today in the mail, which I am so in love with, and which has a gorgeous seal on it because the Italians know how to make tarot decks. I'm so in love. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's pouring rain today. I went out because I had to return something to Joann Fabrics. Attempt to emboss. I got something I thought might work to emboss my Arcana playing card deck with Lenormand names, but it didn't work out. So I needed to return that. And I had to go, my oldest brother, who's 2 years older than I am, bought a house and just got into it. So I stopped over to see his house and have a chit chat. And I got drenched numerous times, like it was a downpour, but I do like spring rains, have thunderstorms. We do have, because we're wrapping up Lenormarch, Monday I'm going to be having a podcast with Mr. Lunar, or Remco, who's been doing videos all month. Well, many people have. He started his channel off of Lenormarch, and he's shown some really cool decks. He's been doing the poems in, I think, Dutch and English and Dutch. So I'm going to do a chit-chat interview with him. It was Patrick for the first one Monday from In the 78 Cards, and then to kind of wrap up Lenormarch, I'm going to do an interview with his first name is Remco, but I call him Mr. Lunar. So be looking for that Monday. But today we're going to wrap up our grand tableau just with some couple of the things that I personally do. We've already looked at the 3 cards. We've already looked at our corners. We've already looked at our significator and the cards around her. We've looked a little bit at the anchor cards. We've gone across her line. We've done this line. Now, one of the other things that I really like to do is called knighting. Now, there are tons of things you can do to grand tableaus, and one of the things you have to be careful of is not doing too many things. Like, you don't want to take every single thing that you ever learn about Lenormand and do it, or you're just going to start getting crazy combinations and convoluted messages. But I do like to use knighting. And so with knighting, you think about a chess piece, and a chess knight goes 1, 2, over, or 1, 2, over. So when I knight particularly, for going up, so here's our lady card. I can't knight down because there's not 2. So I can knight up, and I go 1, 2, over. We have a heart, and we have the fox. So that tells me there's something a little bit maybe not right about the relationship issues, which we saw this fox because it was right next to the man anyways. But she might need to be paying attention to her relationship. It seems to have been in a step back phase, which is the case. And so it's time to be paying some close attention to that relationship. So you can see how 1, 2, over, and over gives me these 2 cards to kind of read. Conversely, you can also go this way, 1, 2, and then we have the scythe and the coffin. So we have an ending to an ending. A cutting off of an ending. So that is, or a permanent ending, which we do have connected to the anchor, which could be the end of this current job, which though we saw is probably going to lead to something good. So you can knight this way. If we look this way, 1, 2, these 2 over here are the knighting. And we do have the garden here and the dog. So we have some loyal friends, and they have the sun between the 2 of them. So we do have some positive things that's going to help her with these endings and the things that she's dealing with, because she's got a community, perhaps a group of friends that she is able to rely on to help her get through this particular situation that she's going through. So that's how, and you can do that with anything. You could take the man and knight, and we have, message coming about the Discord, or repeated messages maybe, because they are in distance right now. They're having to rely on more messages and things like that. He can't knight this way. We can go to here to the friendship. He can knight here to the scythe. But in terms, I like the matching pairs. So if I can't go like these two, I don't tend to do it. So for him, I would just knight to these two cards. To work, you could knight to harmony. Through, even though there's going to be difficulties, there's also going to be harmony. We do have needing to pay really close attention to documents, perhaps regarding work. We do have an ending of a journey with work that's going on when we knight this way. So knighting is something that you can do. Now you can also follow trails, but this requires using the house system. I don't really want to get too much into the house system. I've talked about it a little bit, but that's, you know, we're kind of at the end of the month, and I think that that would be really starting up. That would be just starting things up, a big topic up. So I need to just simply, and I think I have, if you go into my playlist and Lenormand, I believe there should be discussion of the house in those videos. But so here is what the houses, so the houses are starting with 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, go all the way through. So for example, 1 is the house of the rider. So we have something new in the house of the rider next to the rider. I do like to pay attention to those kinds of connections. But I basically just want to quickly show you how you might follow a pathway. So if we have the path over here and we want to know a little bit more about it, we would look on our chart and see, well, the path is in the house of the dog. So then I would find my dog, and I would say, okay, well, my dog is in the house of the whip. So we have loyalty. There's something to do with loyalty is going to come into play. Or we do have some maybe arguments that are going to test the loyalty in this decision. So when we go to the house of the whip, we can see that is in the house of the mountain, which is difficulties. So it's going to be a difficult decision, which brings us actually to the path, and not directly, but underneath it. But then we go here to the mountain, and we can see it's in the house of the letter. So we go to the letter, and we can see that the letter is in the house of the mice. So there's definitely some communication and things that are being eaten away. It's going to impact this decision that's being made. So then we find the mice, and here are the mice with this, you know, they're being risen up because we do at least have the star and the lily on either side, but that's also eating away at her, getting her to where she wants to be at as well. This is in the house of the coffin, however, so we can maybe see an end to some of this, what's eating away at things. And then we would find the coffin. And the coffin is in the house of the key. So an ending of things is maybe going to be the key to success, which we find, again, the key is next to both the work and the decision card. Key is in the house of the stork, which is positive change. And you can go, if it gets more than like 6 or 7 windings, what you're trying to eventually do is bring yourself, so if you start at the path, you're trying to bring yourself and see if that connection goes to the house of the path. That would be a full trail. But if it starts getting too long, I just stop. I take whatever little message I got, but I stop. It's not a really direct, trail. Let's see if we can find a shorter one. So here we have the woman who is in the house of the path. See, I didn't even follow that correctly. That's great. So maybe it would have ended quicker. So here we have the woman that's in the house of the path. So then we would go to the path, which is in the house of the dog. And we would go from the dog, who is in the house of the whip. And the whip is in the house of the mountain. And the mountain is in the house of the letter. And the letter is in the house of the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, mice. The mice is in the house of the coffin. Again, this is getting to be a long one. I'm trying to find one that relatively quickly comes back. Well, let's go with work, because the stuff seems to be coming up about work. So here we have work. If we look on our chart, it's 1 down and 3 over, so it's in the house of the stars. That's good. And we have the stars right above it in the house of the snake. And then we have the snake down here in the house of the fish. And then we have the fish that is in the house of the book. And then we have the book in the house of the birds. Birds in the house of the lilies. Lilies in the house of the bouquet. Nope. We're not seeing any quick connections. So I'll kind of peek at that, because sometimes you'll get them where they're like within 5 or 6 where it connects back to each other, and I pay attention to those. So that's something that you can look for. Houses are also good just to check your, you don't have to look at every single house. If you draw yourself a chart like this, it's not very difficult. I at least like to look, okay, the significator here is in the house of the path. So we know that decision, this idea of a decision is going to be very important to her. That's a key element. She's got a lot of choices for her. So I like to look there. Of course, with a relationship, I'm going to look. We have it in the house of the ship. So we see that this is a long relationship. There's some difficulties that we see as we go into it, but this is something worth working on. It's not in it for the long haul, so to speak. We might look again to the and find that the work is in the house of the stars. So we see that the issues around work are rising, and we do have stars right next to it. We do have the key for success. It just looks like there may be a path where one path is ending, and this new branch is what's going to take them to success, and their stars rising, right? So you might just look at your key things into your houses, and it just gives us some ideas. If you look at the man, he's in the house of the house, so that's a stable position for her significant other. And the house is in her 9 card that's connected with her and connects the 2 of them. So that gives me an idea that this relationship is a stable one, despite, you know, right now being a long distance and maybe step back period and having some issues. It's a long-term one. It's something that needs to be worked on. So that's how you can use houses without going, you know, you don't have to, I don't ever sit there and look at every single house card in its house, just significant ones. Or if I'm really looking to get some more information on something that's like, I wonder what that's all about. Looking to the house can give us a little bit more information. So those are a couple other things that I will do before I wrap up my grand tableau. And then in order to, and I've shown this before, but in order to finish up, what I do is I start with my significator. If I threw the whole thing for work, then I would start with the work card. If it was a romance spread where I was casting the spread for the romance, I would start with the heart card. But if it's a general one, I will take the significator because I want this message for her. And then I will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That path shows up. You can see that that's really important for her. And then that will take us back to here. And then I would just pick these cards up, because I'm done with them. And then move these up. And then what I do is the middle card of this 9 card row, I take as the focus. So there is a message coming from afar. You know, if that was an important card, that was actually in the first 3 cards. So we know that that's also important. So that makes sense. That shows up as a focus. And then I start to read 2 by 2. We have the woman that is closely attached to the past, which we saw that in there. She's got some choices that need to be made about finances that are going to bring her to stability. She needs to stay strong and focused on her well-being. Even though this might be a difficult kind of winding path that we see here, it's not a straight path. There may be some difficulties, but she needs to stay focused on her health and well-being, stay strong during this time. And so I would go through this like that, all paying attention to these are important messages that she needs to hear. And then I would go through and read that as sort of a final culmination of all of the grand tableau into one message. And that's something I love to do. And it always seems to kind of clarify things, bring things together into a very succinct message from the reading, and so I quite enjoy doing that. And so there we have our grand tableaus. I have not caught on everybody's grand tableau videos. I will be doing so, but I'm so looking forward to it. I just want to thank everybody who has participated. It's been fantastic. I know I keep saying this, but I love seeing all of the Lenormand stuff in the feeds and Instagram feeds, at the Facebook group and Instagram. It's just been great seeing kind of all of this chatter about Lenormand, because it really is a good system. I hope that, you know, if nothing else, that you've seen the merits of Lenormand, even if it's not something that you maybe are going to continue on the path with, that you can at least understand what it's all about, you know, and see what it does have to offer, because it actually has a lot to offer. And this is, you know, I didn't go into great depth. I very purposely tried to keep, you know, my, you know, the card by card ones just a succinct, you know, couple keywords. You know, I'm trying to keep everything so that if somebody started on, you know, March 1st and had no experience with Lenormand, they could work their way through March and come out of it with, you know, a nice little base understanding. And, you know, if you've gone through March having been a beginner and you've got a nice feeling for things, but yeah, it's still confusing at times, that's okay. It's supposed to be confusing at times because you're just getting started. And but as long as you know, have seen progress from the beginning till now, I'm happy. Now, I did want to say one thing, and I'm not going to lay a whole grand tableau, but I did have a question from, I think, Carol. I think I talked about this in one of the videos, but let's just kind of touch on it. Let's just say this is a little mini grand tableau, okay? Here's our mini grand tableau, because I don't want to lay all the cards out. And her question is that she laid a grand tableau, and look, they showed up, both significators showed up at the end. So she had a significator who ended up, her significator ended up all the way over here. This happens sometimes. Now, there is some stuff that I've read that says if that happens, you can reshuffle once and lay them down again. I don't do that. I feel like what I lay down has something to say. You know, they'll say, well, but if somebody bought a grand tableau, they don't want to see themselves here. They want to see their future. Well, there's lots of other things that I can look at to do with their future. But their personal path is more about when you see yourself at the very end. It says right now, when we're looking at your personal line, right now, what's going on in the present and what needs to maybe be resolved in the past is more important than what's going on in the future. And so I don't want to ignore that, because there's some stuff that clearly needs to be resolved. So when that happens, you just again read the cards that are touching you. You read your present line. You read your line leading up to it. And then you can start touching on all the other things. It doesn't mean that all of this, I don't personally read that everything behind here is all the future and has no personal relevance. I look to this line and this line for key things that I need to pay attention to. But then when I go to look at the work card, again, I have my present line, my future line, my past line. But if you show up here, let's say, this means it may be time to let go of the stuff. It's not about the stuff in the past. You might be dwelling too much on the past, and it's time to start looking forward. So see, either way, if you're way down here, if you're doing like a 9x4 like I do, and you're down here at the very bottom, this is telling you can visually see there's a lot weighing on you and not so much going on underneath the surface, just a lot of stuff on top of you, a lot of stuff in your brain. You've got a lot of stuff weighing down on you. If you're up here at the top, you know, there's a lot of underlying things that we need to take a look at. So I don't recast where, you know, if somebody ends up here in the corner, I just go with it. There's something that needs to be said about that. And the main message, in a nutshell, the main message is you need to focus on what's going on presently and some things you might need to resolve in the past. And this particular grand tableau isn't going to tell you a lot about your direct next future. And that's just what the cards have to say. So in my experience, recasting, I know that people do recommend it, but in my experience, I don't get good readings on the second recast. The first one was the message that needed to be said in my personal experience. So I stopped doing that. I tried that at the very beginning when I was working with grand tableaus, and I just never felt good about them. I always felt like after I cast the next one that I should have just kept the first one. I always had that sense that that first one was the message, and so I don't do that anymore. Again, I really didn't do it very often because I just didn't like I was testing it out because I had read that, but I just go with what is down there is what that's the message that needs to come through. So I did want to get that out because somebody did ask that specifically. So I appreciate everybody for coming along on this journey. It has been fantastic. It's also the last day of the Within Without Advice, and I will be talking about that probably tomorrow in a little chit chat I'm going to do. I haven't done any face-to-face videos this month because, you know, it's been Lenormand, so you kind of need to see the cards. It's just been, for me, easier to kind of teach that way. So tomorrow I'll probably do a nice face-to-face video and kind of catch up on a few things, and wrap up the Within Without Advice challenge as well. But both challenges have been a lot of fun, and the participation has been phenomenal, and it's been fantastic seeing everybody's contributions and what they've learned. It's just been amazing, and so I do appreciate everybody who took the time to watch the videos every single day and took the time to kind of work their way through it. And there's some people that say, oh, I'm still going to keep doing it. Keep doing it. I can't, if you put more pictures in the Instagram feed, I'm happy to see those. So yeah, I mean, you doesn't have to, if you're halfway through the Lenormand challenge questions, keep at it. I'm going to be so happy to see those things. So thank you all, and have an absolutely wonderful night.